Welcome to another episode of the Camper Build, where we are going to talk about the window panel. Not the window itself, but the entire panel that the window sits in. Although in this case, the window pretty much covers the entire panel. So this is probably the best feature of the camper just because of the flexibility and all the options that it gives you. First off, I'm going to have a row of hinges here on the top, so you can use this as an emergency exit, so you can just pop it open and slip out if you need to. Or you can prop it open and use it as an awning. Or if it's a nice day, you can just take out the whole panel, and that would really open up the camper and get some good airflow in there. So loads of options. Here I've got the large window, but you could also make a panel with a small window, or if you didn't want any window at all, you could just make a blank panel. So I have a total of 4 panels, and they're all the same size. That way I can mix and match them, so it doesn't really matter where they go. So I can put this panel over here and this panel on the other side. And that way, if I make a panel that has a different use, I could just swap it out with any of these panels and it will fit. So I have a center post here, which is in the center, so I can have 4 equal panels. But I don't necessarily have to have it here in the center. I could, if I needed a really big panel here, then I could just slide this over, and that way I'd have a big panel here and then a small panel over here. And then when I want to go back to this configuration, I could just slide that center post back in the center. So I just lowered the camper down 1 inch, so I had to modify these panels, which is fine because these are just temporary panels. But what I did was I cut off the top inch part of the panel here, and in doing so I cut out all the hinges. So I'm going to be putting the hinges back in. There's going to be 2 hinges. I'm going to modify it a little bit, so you can see here that the plate is on the outside. I'm just going to have the plates on the inside here and just the barrel sticking out. So if you look on some of the previous videos, you'll see the panels 1 inch taller, and you'll see the hinges there. So I have 2 types of windows on the camper. I have the standard RV window that opens up, has a screen, and you can lock it. And then another window that's going to be a custom window that I'm going to make. This is just a temporary window that I made just to get the camper dried in for a road trip. I have all the parts to make the new windows, but I just haven't had time yet. So this panel is going to work the same as the side panels. So I have 2 of these small panels on the back of the camper that are interchangeable. So the way I plan to hold these panels in is with the 2 hinges here on the top, and then also 2 latches here on the bottom that you can open up from the inside. Right now I just have some bolts here to hold everything together because I haven't come up with a good latching mechanism yet. Also, I've got 2 bolts here on the top, and they kind of serve a couple purposes. One, it kind of keeps the panels in there, but it's also for security. And that's because you're going to have those hinges exposed here, so someone could come by and pop the pins out, and then they'd be able to gain access to the camper. But if you have a latching mechanism up here that's only opened up from the inside, that should prevent that. I'll probably do the same mechanism on the top as well as here on the bottom. But as soon as I figure that out, I'll get that in there. So here's a couple panels that I'm working on. One is with expanded steel, and another one is with hog wire. The idea with these is they'll work in conjunction with the window panels that I have. So that way, if I have the panel off, or if I have it propped open and I'm using the window panel as an awning, that these will be behind that and for security. So I can leave the truck by itself for a while and not have to worry about it. The problem with expanded steel, it's a little bit heavy, and the problem with the hog wire is that it doesn't really provide a huge amount of security, but probably enough. So one of the things I'm going to build are some cabinets that fit where the panels go. So that way when I go camping, I can pop out this panel, put it in the cabinet that has everything for the hot water and a heater, and then on the back side here, another panel or another cabinet that holds the propane tank. And then when I'm just using the camper as a daily driver, take the cabinet out, just pop in the window again. So the original idea of the camper was to build it without using any plywood. So when building the windows, I took this piece of plywood. Actually, this is going to be the replacement for these windows. I originally had it designed where I had like a 80-20 frame all the way around it, and with sheet metal and everything like that. But I needed to get it on the road and dry it in. So really the quickest, easiest way is to take a piece of plywood and cut out where the window goes, and then put the hinges on, and then the the bolts on here to hold it to the frame of the camper. And I realized, you know, putting that metal frame around it was just kind of overkill, really. This really works out well, and it's quick and it's easy. So I'm just going to go ahead and just go with the piece of plywood. And I mean, I've had this on for quite a while now, and it's worked without any problems. And I mean, I didn't have this wood protected, so I'm going to put some sheet metal on it. But so this is what this was for. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out a new panel and do it right, so it's protected from the elements. I'm not going to have any of this plywood exposed to the elements. I'm making some 040 aluminum pans like I got here, and then on the inside is going to go the plywood, and then cut out where the wind is going to go. This is just a small panel that goes in the front, and the front panels I probably won't use plywood, but I'll probably use some rigid foam, and then maybe like a thin veneer plywood to kind of make it look nice on the inside. So just real quick to show you where this panel goes. I have these small areas up here. Right now I just have a piece of plywood up here because I needed to dry the camper in for a road trip. These have been working great, so there's no rush to replace it with these. So here's where things start to get really interesting with the camper, because you can build these panels out of just about anything. So here I made mine out of plywood, but you can use sheet metal, fiberglass, or you can use a composite panel. So if you want a super light option, you can make a soft top like you have like here on the Jeep. So if you want to go for that tiny house look, you can use some wood planking, or you can just use the regular standard house siding. So a couple other ideas that I'm working on are like a Rotopax panel or a Molly panel, or maybe even like the window netting on a race car. For the Molly panel or the Rotopax, I'd probably make it look a metal frame that sits on the outside of whatever panel that I have here, if I have a window panel or just a blank panel. And then that metal frame would be hinged, so I can swing it open and get access to this panel. But I'd probably have the hinge on this side, so it'll swing open this way, because that way when you're driving down the road, the wind would work to your advantage if you don't have it latched correctly, and it will keep it closed. So a couple of the other options that I mentioned were the hog wire and the expanded steel, but you could make it out of like a chicken wire if you like camping with your chickens, or some type of other wire mesh. So I already talked about the cabinet that I want to build here that holds the hot water, the shower, and the heater, and then another cabinet on the back side here that holds the propane tank. But what I was thinking about this panel is that it'd be kind of nice to have it like on a hinge, so the whole cabinet will swing open if you need to. Probably hinge it on the side here, or make like a double panel where I have like a panel here on the front, and then this will kind of swing up like this, and then the cabinet will kind of swing out. So I really want to use a composite panel or like a honeycomb panel, especially for the roof of the camper. But the problem I'm having is that there's so many different manufacturers and so many different types of panels that I'm still trying to do the research on which panel is the best for my needs. But the other problem I'm having is that a lot of these manufacturers, they won't deal with me because I'm just buying one or two sheets, just like a little one-off project. They're really only interested in selling to companies that build campers, and they buy in bulk. So I'm kind of hitting that barrier. I did find a couple of people that will sell me like one or two sheets, but then they're not local, so I have to end up spending like $250 for shipping. So still trying to work out this, trying to figure out what options I have, and trying to find a good local distributor that will sell me a sheet. So you can see there's just loads of options you can do with these panels. You can have the large window, a small window, or just a blank panel with no window at all. Or you can make an insulated panel, or you can just, remove the whole panel altogether and just kind of go without it. But anyways, those are the things that I'm working on. And that's going to do it for this episode. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.